Let's imagine a scenario. You're out and about, you're walking down the street. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and you're walking down the street, and this guy comes up to you with a baseball bat. And he's got kind of this crazy look in his eye. And he comes at you with the bat. He swings and he hits you right in the face, and you fall to the ground. You've just been hit in the side of the face with a baseball bat. You're in tremendous pain. You're dazed. You're confused. You think your jaw is broken. And as you're lying there, he starts hitting you harder and harder with the bat. And you could feel your ribs breaking and your bones cracking. And you think he might be, this might be your last few moments on earth because you feel like he might be on the verge of beating you to death. And you hold your arm out and you're like, stop, wait, why are you doing this? What did I do? Who are you? What's going on? Why are you doing this? And the guy stops for a second, looks down at you, and he says, oh, yeah, let me tell you what's going on. God, I know this hurts, but an angel just told me I have to do this. I have to beat you to death with this baseball bat. Um, and you're just gonna have to trust me. And then you go, oh, okay, yeah, sure. And you let him beat you to death, or you let him, beat the crap out of you or whatever. And he's and but say maybe you were to so you could do that, or maybe you could start to say, well, that's crazy, stop, no, stop, an angel didn't say that, stop. And his response would be, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, why don't you trust me? And just belittle you for not trusting him. So there's that scenario. Let's take another scenario. um there's a father who's got his little kid, and they're at the public swimming pool, and the little kid's afraid of water, and a lot of his friends have already learned how to swim, but he's got this fear of water and drowning. And the dad's got him. They go out into the pool. The kid can see that there's other people around, swimming, having fun, but he's just not sure, he can do it yet. And the dad, puts on the kid's water wings, and he's, holding on to him, and he gently shows him, like, he's there with him, like, I'm here with you, I've got you, and he holds on to him in the pool. And then he eventually gives the kid um enough guidance to uh do it on his own. And he learns how, and now he can swim on his own, and he's not afraid anymore. He knows that it's legitimate to be afraid of drowning, and you should be careful. But the but the fact that you might drown doesn't mean that you can't learn how to swim, and that you can't be safe in a pool if you just know what you're doing. So yeah, there's two scenarios: guy with a baseball bat hitting a guy, dad with his kid in the pool. What do these two scenarios have to do with each other? A common tactic, or a common line used by trad Catholics when you point out that um, the practices and environment, the whole attitudes they have around penance and suffering, and how this world has to be a passion, and how you're required to suffer. You naturally, as a human being who wants to be happy, doesn't want to be traumatized, doesn't want to be hurt, you might resist that. And their response would be oftentimes bringing up the analogy of a father, something similar to the pool, or maybe something like, you got to go to the doctor, and the shot might hurt, or there's a little bit of pain. They take that principle, that's, that principle that's true in life, of there's some, risk and or difficulty or hardship that may come about to do things that are necessary. It's a true fact of life. But that's true because of the I said this before, that's true because of the limited amount of resources on the planet, and the limits of the human condition. But again, the attitude and the mindset to the traditional Catholic world is that all the suffering that we have to endure on this earth, all the penance we have to endure, all the things we have to do to ourselves that are not that we're just piling on more restrictions, more repression, more hardships, more things to to fill our minds with sadness and grief and difficulty. They see all of that as being um what's what's the word I'm looking for? They see all that as being justified, or the reward will come, or it'll all make sense after death. And it's all based on, ultimately, you can try to have a, a discussion with them, not separate from emotion or belief in anything, but it'll all come down to, you have to trust, you have to love a God. And so therefore, if you don't trust, you don't love. If you don't love God, you're evil, you're bad, because you don't trust. You're an evil person because you don't trust the the fact that you don't trust the penance, you don't trust that even though it feels bad, it's good in the long run. You don't believe that, and therefore you're an evil person, you're bad. Because she So that's why, how that, in my, perfectly corresponds to the guy hitting you with the baseball bat analogy, because he's hurting you, he's acknowledging he's hurting you. And when you don't want to be hurt, you're told that the person who's hurting you is saying, no, I have information that you don't have, and you're going to have to believe me while as I beat you with this bat. And you know what I the the people who uh who Tradcaths love, the saints that they quote, they talk about and try to emulate. A lot of them were men who, you know, yeah, if you saw this person doing these things like Saint Francis, if you were just to see a person out whipping themselves, or rolling around naked in the snow, or wearing hair shirts, you would be deeply disturbed, rightfully so. But because he's doing it for God, because God wants him to, because he says he can talk to God, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And again, there's just this bizarre, perverse, love. And again, it becomes, again, in their mind, it's sacrificial, it's pain out of love. They filter it through that lens. But if you step out of the of their it if you step out of it and you just look at what's happening, you're going to see a person, you're just seeing a person whipping themselves, you're just seeing a person, you know doing. And again, that's not, I'm not saying that in trad cat circles they're telling everyone to do that, but when you admire people who do that, that it creates this baked in culture, this baked in sort of environment that's subtle, but it that a belief that, the more I suffer, as long as I'm thinking about God, the better it is for me, which totally negates, you know, which negates, trauma, which negates the way the brain works, which is a completely, which doesn't take into, and again, it doesn't take into account how the human mind actually works. And when I was listening to and trusting these people who were telling me that if I wasn't happy, it was because, you know, I wasn't loving God enough and I should hurt myself more. And even if you're not happy, it's, on the one hand, you should be happy. On the other hand, if you're suffering, it's good because it's penance. So it's a completely, it's a complete contradiction. Because whenever you approach them and say, I'm not happy, this is making me deeply sad, they respond with, well, you need to suffer more. You need to suffer until you get it. Basically, keep doing penance until it all makes sense. And so you're just sort of like, and I think that that's kind of a almost an exposure therapy, because again, you learn to associate doubt with pain, because when you start to doubt, you think, oh, I need to suffer more, so I'll get it. That's the mindset you get put into. And this is the exact same pattern as every other destructive cult out there. And trad Catholics could easily point to, you know, I would see it all the time. They all acknowledge that Scientology is a cult, Moody's a cult, Jehovah's Witnesses, all that stuff. They say they're good at recognizing other cults. But you know, when you see a pattern and the person's only argument is we're the one exception to that pattern because we're just true. Again, that's another argument. You'll often find with them is that they'll say, well, it's just true, and you know it deep down. So again, it all becomes a moral and an argument against you. That's all they can throw at you, moral arguments. At the end of the day, whenever you press them on why their practices are harmful, why they're destructive, and why they hurt people, they all they can do at the end of the day is to call you a bad person and to say that you're a bad person for not embracing the suffering that they embrace. You're a bad person if you don't want to endure what we're willing to endure. You know, I don't see how having that kind of approach to life of how can I, of looking around at the world saying they're not suffering enough. We need to make them suffering more. It again, I've said this before. That's love, you know. It's a completely incomprehensible definition of love. Um, and it's like they throw things like you're not supposed to understand. You're not supposed to get it. You know, shut up and take it. It all comes back to just shut up and take it. That's their, and you know, that gets kind of tiring after a while. You start to wonder if maybe you start to wonder if their only argument at the end of the day is shut up and take it. How legitimate is this thing if that's all you got?